Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pujayine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamaham Pariprajaka Ashtotar Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Nama Charja Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kundikiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Go. Well, welcome to everyone, especially welcome to Meena Dasi, and welcome to everyone. Om Jnana Tmirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitamstam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lolita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Prashabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Again, welcome to all. If my voice becomes too faint or you run into any other problems of that nature, just notify me if you will. We'll try to fix things up. And I wonder, well, maybe I'll lead off with something today, sort of a conversation I was having earlier in the day. We were discussing climate change. And, you know, what is our position on climate change? Of course, I'm all for global warming because I like it warm. But apart from that, you know, what is our position? By the way, while I'm thinking of it, in this little Istagosthi format, if you choose to have your video on, that's perfectly all right. Gives a community feeling to things. Or if you'd like to stay on video, that's fine also. So what about this climate change? And I confess that I really don't know anything about it in terms of the science. I don't read on it. If I did read on it, I don't know who I'd trust, and you know, who knows. But in the larger picture of things, this is Kali Yuga, and we have to expect that the environment is going to be retaliatory rather than cooperative. That's what we should expect. In the Bhagavad Gita, Devan Bhavyatani na te deva bhavyantuva paraspara bhavyanta shreya paramavapshita. You perform sacrifice and the demigods will be happy, and there'll be cooperation between human beings and demigods, and you'll get everything you need. Ishtan Bhogan Hivo Deva Dasyante Yogi Bhavata. And what is that? Yodatana Pradaya Bhyo. Yobungte Stain Avasa. But those who are just enjoying what nature offers and not offering sacrifice in return are thieves. They're thieves, and the thieves will suffer. So we have to expect that nature will be hostile, that we'll get miseries from material nature, we'll get miseries from other living entities, we'll get miseries from our own bodies and minds. Welcome to Kali Yuga. This is what we have to expect. So whether climate change as advertised or warned of by scientists is factual or not factual, the overall picture is that nature is going to beat us up because we're trying to we're trying to beat her up to exploit whatever we can, exploit resources and not acknowledge the proprietor. The Bhumi Devi told Maharaj Prithu, I'm not giving because people are not, because people are demonic. They're just trying to exploit. So I'm holding back. That's what we have to expect. Pandemics, wars, natural disasters, or environmental catastrophes. This is what we have to expect. If people want if people are serious, if they believe that there's climate change and we must do something, then top of the list, they should stop meat eating. They should close the slaughterhouses and stop meat eating. That's, let's get serious here. If you think there's a problem, start there. Okay, Tulsi Priya.
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. I was just, when you were talking, I was remembering sometimes people, they have a very intense sense of urgency about the matter, and they'll say things like, we're destroying the planet. And you bringing up the idea that nature is retaliatory, that's not what I think these people are thinking of. They're thinking that things are breaking down, not that nature is retaliating. And when I was thinking about this concept of destroying the planet, I'm thinking it's not possible to destroy the planet. And I was thinking how, since the earth is compared to a cow, Bhumi Devi is in the form of a cow. Sometimes you see a cow and there are all these flies on the hide of the cow, bothering and biting. And every once in a while she swats her tail and the flies go. And I think that's us. We're like all these, blood-sucking little insects. And every once in a while nature shakes her flanks, and there's earthquakes and storms and whatnot. And a few of the flies are finished. But I just wonder if you think it is actually possible to destroy the planet.
Prabhupada comments in Srimad Bhagavatam, I believe, that they can't. He comments someplace in his literature that they're too puny to destroy the planet. Besides, the planet has its own schedule for destruction. It's like they can't make the sun go down faster, and any faster than they can make it go up. And they can't bring an end to the world any faster than it's meant to end, but they can certainly make life miserable for themselves in the meantime.
So I think what they really are saying when they say destroy the planet, they mean make it uninhabitable or completely miserable to inhabit.
That they can do.
Yeah.
That they're doing.
Right.
That they're doing. Cities that are just either war zones, or you take a city like Athens or Delhi, and just breathing is a challenge. The devotees don't like to live in Athens because like you run your hand down the handrail of the stairs in your house, and it's got like a layer of dust just from being there. It's a kind of a smog trap, from an environmental point of view, or weather point of view. It's a smog trap. And so one of the most admired cities in the classical world has become a hellish place by human action. So something else on this, or some other topics? We're all open tonight.
I just found, this is from the purport to 1732. Prabhupada says, the theory that the modern atomic bomb explosions can annihilate the world is childish imagination. First of all, the atomic energy is not powerful enough to destroy the world. And secondly, ultimately, it all rests on the supreme will of the Supreme Lord, because without his will or sanction, nothing can be built up or destroyed. He also says it is foolish also to think that natural laws are ultimately powerful. Material nature's law works under the direction of the Lord. Yeah, he goes on to say the world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord and not by the whims of tiny politicians.
Yeah. This was a fear back in the 1950s, I think, that atomic energy, and definitely in the 1950s, Prabhupada was writing, in the 1960s, 1950s, 1960s, we definitely believed that this is what things could come to, that the bombs would go off and the world would be destroyed by nuclear weapons. And so it seemed like a real threat, but Srila Prabhupada says it's not. Well, it's a threat, but not a threat of global annihilation, just global mess. And by the way, it's been pointed out that non-nuclear weapons are just as capable of destruction as nuclear ones. You read these terrible accounts of cities destroyed by nuclear weapons. The same results are achieved without nuclear energy. Not to minimize the power of nuclear bombs, but this is what military experts have said. The fear of nuclear war was in the public consciousness up until the fall of the Soviet Union, Tulsi Priya says. Yeah, well, okay. Thank you. Yes, right, for what it's worth. Now, and then they were replaced by other fears. Now it's global terrorism and global pandemics. So fear is there. And what is that? Ahara Bhaya, Ahara Bhaya, Ahara, oh my goodness. Ahara Nidra Bhayamaitanam. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This is animal life. And the Prabhupada said of the four, Bhai is the most prominent. Bhaya means fighting, but literally it means fear. So this is of the four animal propensities, the most prominent is fear. And that fear is being incremented in various ways by terrorism and apparent or terrorism and apparent terrorism or potential terrorism by biological weapons or the potential of biological weapons. After 9/11, I remember there was an anthrax threat, military grade anthrax. So the potential of bioweapons, and now it's viral threats, whether man-made or natural, depending on which view of the matter you take. But either way, it's enough to instill fear. So what is that? Yeah. So if one's not Krishna conscious, one must always be in fear that my whole everything could be finished. Yes, Tulsi Priya.
Maharaj, I was wondering about the fear being the most prominent. Is that because it's not necessarily a conscious fear, but it's instinctual? In other words, everything we do, we're always trying to be careful. If you drive, you don't want to get into an accident. If you go up the stairs, you hold on the hand railing. That's not the feeling of fear, but it's always this consciousness. I have to take care of the organism and protect it. Would you say that is part of it?
Yeah, it may not always be articulated as fear. It may be just sort of the baseline fear, shall we say, fears that we all walk around with, psychological fears. Do I dare eat a peach? And sort of anxiety. It's typified as anxiety. who's not in anxiety these days. So anxiety is, what is it but a kind of fear? This might happen, that might happen, this might happen, that might happen, this might happen. You see the birds, they've got some food in front of them, so they're eating like this. They're always looking to see, is someone going to attack me? Am I in danger? So this is there among the human beings too. I mean, how serious is it? Half of our global, half of our national expenditures on weapons and defense. Half. That means we must consider it pretty important.
Maharish?
Yes, Panchatattva had his hand up. But he's muted, so we don't know.
I've unmuted myself. Obeisances, Maharaj. I'm on this subject of climate change or pollution or whatever. I was listening one day to a conversation Prabhupada was having. It was London, 1973, and the recording has a couple of fellows, Dr. Schumacher, I believe, and they're all commenting on the state of affairs in the world. And Prabhupada's looking through a magazine. He says, "Cars, profits, and pollution." I was just reading this article, cars, profits, and pollution. So there's one side, we make profit. Other side, we make pollution. Dr. Schumacher says, that's it. Prabhupada says, this is material, the result of material activities. Whatever you do, anything you do material is the same. And one side you say, oh, there's so much profit. And other side, you'll see so much pollution. Therefore, the remedy is to act for spiritual realization. Then you will avoid pollution. And he goes on to talk about how the pollution could actually be purified by spiritual activities, by Krishna consciousness. Dr. Schumacher keeps coming back to that point because he's you can purify the pollution, and Prabhupada keeps insisting, yes, you can purify it by Krishna consciousness.
Nice. Yeah, the pollution is, first of all, pollution of consciousness, because when consciousness is polluted, then all the other pollution follows. Mm-hmm. The whole atmosphere becomes polluted, human dealings become polluted, the environment becomes polluted, the food becomes polluted, everything becomes polluted, the economy becomes polluted by false currency and other such things. No, everything is polluted because of polluted consciousness. And if we purify Krishna consciousness, then that's our antidote for pollution. It's a fact.
So yes. This gross manifestation of pollution and material disturbances is nothing but a manifestation of our subtle natures. Our minds, our thoughts, our desires.
Yeah, if our consciousness were pure, the environment would be pure. In previous ages, consciousness was pure and the environment was pure. Then passion becomes prominent and we want to exploit material nature, aggressively. And so pollution. And when passion descends to ignorance, we don't even know what we're doing. We don't even know what we're doing, so everything becomes polluted by passion and ignorance. Passion mixed with ignorance is like a dangerous cocktail. Ignorance, the lowest, but with enough passion so that we can do nasty things. Passion and ignorance. So we need to purify our consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Even our own lives, they become polluted by this and that. But if Krishna consciousness is there, then they become bright. Mind becomes bright, life becomes bright. Dealings with others become bright. People become considered pollution because of overpopulation. Literally, Varna Sankara, unwanted. Tulsi Priya says, people become considered pollution. Yeah, they pollute the environment. There's too many of them. I guess, is that the idea, that there's just so many of them that they're making our environment, they're messing up our environment. So we need fewer people. So better to prevent them from being born, or if we're willing to do that, then perhaps we could take measures to cut down the population by other means. Such thinking may go on.
Maharaj, I just found a quote that you reminded me of. This is again from the 17th chapter of the first canto. And Prabhupada is talking about the cow and the bull. He says, these greatly sinful acts are responsible for all the troubles in present society. People do not know what they are doing in the name of economic development. The influence of Kali will keep them in the darkness of ignorance. Despite all endeavors for peace and prosperity, the people will fail to achieve them unless they try to see that the cows and bulls are happy in all respects.
Yeah, so much sinful activity. If they would just do this one thing, close the slaughterhouses, how the whole society would change for the better. Just on this one thing. Prabhin says, why does nature want to give these reactions? Why not action and then instant punishment? People would be even more fearful even before acting. I've spoken to that in my book, Vanity Karma, because that question, in fact, let me find that. Hold on one second, because it's a part of a larger discussion. In Ecclesiastes, Kohelet argues, in essence, that people are emboldened to do vicious things because they see that they can get away with it. Just looking to see where that is. It's been a while. Let's see. Oh, I know, I can find it from conscience. Wait a moment. Because a sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the heart of man is fully set to do evil. So the argument is that, essentially, we can do evil and get away with it. That justice is delayed or not imposed. And so people go on doing mischief. So why is that? Essentially, I've argued, in essence, Kohelet expects that there ought to be a divinely administered law of karma, a law by which, for all that we do, we get what we deserve. And he doesn't see it, or else he sees it, but sees it randomly violated. Then I've written, from a Vedic perspective, at least this part of the problem is not a problem. From a one life only viewpoint, Kohelet certainly seems right. Justice seems to lurch from side to side, senselessly, unpredictably, heedless of civilized rules. But when we consider our present life only one snippet from an endless sequence of millions upon millions of lives, the problem resolves itself. For in each of our lives in the past, we've performed actions whose results, if they haven't already caught up with us, may come upon us at any time now or in any lifetime in the future. So the law of karma works, but still, why the delay? What is the use? Why should I suffer for things in this life that I did in previous lives that I don't even remember? What's the use? Of what sense could it be? Of what instructive value? That's Praveen's question. The gap observed by Kohelet between sentence and punishment, deed and consequence, becomes even greater, now extending not only for years, but for lifetimes. So then I've offered that according to the Vedic sages, this world is neither a place of enjoyment nor merely a place where we get rewarded, punished, and thereby instructed. Rather, it's the world of Maya, of illusion, of that which is not. It is the world in which we choose to imagine that we are entirely independent, that our existence is not contingent on an ultimate existence greater than our own, that we are not part of the supreme reality or Krishna. To accommodate that choice, Krishna has a potency and energy, the energy of illusion, which enables that which is not to seem real. Through that energy, Maya, Krishna provides us a bewilderment we ourselves choose to have. This illusory energy masks from us the real nature of this world so that we can think it's a place where we can control and enjoy. So one answer why the delay between deed and consequence, this delay is Maya's deliberate contribution to our bewilderment. We want to have a good time and not pay for it, cheat and not get caught, grab the world's honey and not get stung. And Maya so deceives us that we imagine we can pull it off. When we turn away from Krishna, illusion is what we want, so illusion is what we get. So that's one answer for you, Praveen. Yes, it would all be neater and cleaner if there were instant results for everything and people could see, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. But we're not meant to see, we're meant to have a covering potency that masks from us what's really going on so that we can imagine that we can control, we can enjoy. That's what we came for. Panchatattva says, I remember hearing a devotee's memory of Srila Prabhupada, in which Prabhupada was appreciating the Americans who had given him as many disciples, so many disciples, and so forth. He was appreciating the mothers and fathers of the disciples the Americans. He had one request: if only they could give up killing the cow. Yeah. Such a sinful activity, and so people are so blind to it. They don't know what they're doing. I remember Ajyadas, some of you may know him from Laguna Beach. He's from Gujarat, had a successful software company in America. And his mother came and visited him. And they went to purchase some things in the supermarket. And at some point she asked, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, that's meat." And he said, it's cow meat. His mother began to cry. A human being who's actually awake can't bear to see these things. And yet in our modern world, this is how, I mean, what are you talking about? It's the supermarket. Everything's available. They don't realize, they don't see. They send their sons and daughters to the universities, and they copulate like cocker spaniels, as one writer put it. The parents just have no sense of it. Oh, my daughter's popular. Even now, to be, there's so many things. Gambling, intoxicants, meat eating, illicit sex. They become, what's the problem? Why is that a problem? Abortion, why, what? And more vicious, more and more vicious things. And this is Kali Yuga. So therefore, so urgently needed Krishna consciousness. Yes, Tulsi Priya's hand is there.
Jai Maharaj. What you were saying about the devotee's mother went like a knife to the heart. I felt dull, I've chosen vegetarianism. I didn't grow up with it, and I don't have that sentiment, that just to cry when you pass by the meat freezer or whatever. But I was thinking how most of the time when something is considered a sin, we do it under cover of darkness. We sneak around, we hide it, meat eating, no. But even that, slaughterhouses take place out of the public view. They didn't always, but they pretty much do. It's not, people are not doing it in the open, because you wouldn't have, a lot of people would probably give it up. But same thing for sexual sins, and it seems like, nowadays things are more open, people are not shy about whatever sinful activities that they're doing for the most part. But I think I was thinking how you say previously it was sinful to have sex without being married. And so if you wanted to have sex, you had to sneak around, and, and you were very careful to cover it up and not let anybody know. And then people, they suffer the consequences of that. And it seems to them maybe that the consequences are not commensurate. I'm trying to think of the word. Yeah, commensurate with the sin. And so, we have to do something to help these poor people who are suffering from the consequences of their sins. So birth control was invented. And so it's this weird cycle of misplaced compassion and but as something loses its consequences, then people become more open about it. And because enjoyment, part of enjoyment comes from breaking the rules and flouting society's morals, then you have to find other sins to do, because the vanilla sins that people have been committing are no longer giving you the same thrill. So then you have to be sneaky about, like, oh, like I won't even mention anything, but, and now those sins are becoming more public, to the point that, I think, we have the pride parades going on, and there's this big controversy going on with, so you have homosexual people who are, married, they pay their taxes and they go to work and whatever, and they're getting angry because people who are into very deviant sex want to have their presence noticed at the pride parades, and they're trying to say, you're going to ruin everything for us. We're trying to be accepted by society, and we have children coming to these parades and showing how everything's completely normal, and you want to do this deviant thing at our pride parades. So little by little, everything becomes more and more and more open, and then I've mentioned to you before this idea of defining deviancy down. It's like people have to go somewhere to get their thrills, and the only way where to go is down.
Yeah.
But it starts off with people suffering the consequences, and then out of compassion we try to fix the consequences, which makes the sin more acceptable.
Yeah, that goes on at sort of the public level. Definitely. Then there's another level at which people are vicious and exceedingly rich, exceedingly vicious and exceedingly rich. And so they can do exceedingly vicious things and hide it because they have the means to hide it, or disguise it as something benevolent. Either hide it or disguise it as something benevolent, necessary, protective, useful, justified, or sensible, or one way or another. If you've got that kind of money, individually or collectively, you can hide vicious activities, or you can make them appear to be entirely justified. But yeah,
I don't know.
Such is the age.
I don't know if you've heard, but there's, I recently heard that, they have fetal research done on human fetuses. And it used to be that the fetus would have to be under a certain age. And now they've raised the age. So, I mean, it's sort of like, it might seem inconsequential. They're doing research on fetuses, but now it can be a fetus of an older age. And so it's like the boundary in the mind of something that doesn't appear human to maybe something that does appear human is being shifted, it's becoming more acceptable.
Prabhupada says in one conversation, for their sense gratification, they'll do anything. And then he says it again, they will do anything. For sense gratification, they will do anything. Shayaya Jagato Hita, in the Bhagavad Gita. By their demonic activities, they bring about destruction in the world. Jagata Ahita, destruction, and Hita means benefit, and Ahita means non-benefit, but that's really doesn't convey the force of it. I don't know what's a good antonym for benefit right off the top of my head, but it's like something like misery or misfortune doesn't do the job either. Woe is sort of like it. But the word is antiquated, but something along those lines. Something else?
I had a question, Maharaj, but this.
Sorry for such a miserable Istagosthi today.
Well, I had a
misery
question.
and viciousness and so on.
All right, Christian.
Yes.
This takes things in quite a different direction. But this is more of a history of ISKCON sort of question. Because I'm reading Giriraj Maharaj's I'll Build You a Temple.
Me too.
Just recently, I came across his recount of the final Pandal program that Prabhupada presided over in Bombay. And various devotees are giving their recollections of the event. And it seems like there are a lot of personalities that show up for this particular Pandal that were not previously in Bombay. And I was surprised to read some names, yours included. And I was wondering, were you actually there? And what is your recollection of that?
I was definitely there. The Pandal program was scheduled deliberately to connect with or dovetail or with or begin just after the Mayapur Vrindavan festival, which was a major global event. In those days, devotees would come from all over the world, first to Mayapur and then to Vrindavan, to be in these holy places in the association of Srila Prabhupada. And so it was scheduled deliberately so that devotees who would have the opportunity to come to Bombay and take part in that program, and thereby make the program bigger, and also to have the association of Srila Prabhupada, which I think that was, perhaps for many devotees, their last opportunity to associate physically with Srila Prabhupada, because that was his last year. So that would have been like March, April, and Prabhupada left in November. So yes, I was there, and Prabhupada was in, of course, much can be told about that, but Prabhupada was in very poor health. He was so weak, in fact, that for this Pandal program, I remember that Prabhupada would be like carried onto the stage. I think Bhavananda and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, if I remember, carried him onto the stage and deposited him on the Vyasasana. He was so weak that just to sit on the asana in his usual way, erect and strong, was no longer possible. It was like depositing a patient essentially on the seat. And Prabhupada said that there was multi nights, several nights, and I remember he began, perhaps the first night, he said, "I've come to enliven you and to be enlivened by you." And but he was so weak that he just asked devotee to read from Srimad Bhagavatam. I forget whether it's TKG or Bhavananda who read. It was second canto, Svavid Varahostra Karai Samskruta Purusha Pashu, men who were like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. And the verses in that section. So the devotee is reading and probably just sitting there and he's listening. And after some time, he just says, 2 or 3 words. And the devotee is going on reading. Prabhupada says like a sentence or so. And the devotee goes on reading, but gradually Prabhupada's picking up energy, and he starts to speak more, and he starts to speak more, and pretty soon he's roaring. He's just roaring and giving an incredibly powerful lecture. And then at the end, he called for questions. And in the questions, he was smashing. There were questions, again, they were spread out over a few nights, so I may not assign the right one to the right night, but one man asked, as people often do, so if I become a dog, what's wrong with that? I'll have the consciousness of a dog, so it'll feel natural, it'll feel all right. Why, what's the wrong there? People ask that question quite commonly. So Prabhupada said, if there's nothing wrong, then it is all right. But we do not think this kind of life is very nice. Perfect. Everybody just cheered. The man couldn't say anything. We do not think such kind of life is very nice. Another time, some man asked, I'm seeing the picture of Krishna, but I am not seeing the picture. I'm not seeing the picture of Ram. And he sort of went on that way. Prabhupada said, but the name is there. But there is no picture, Prabhupada, but the name is there. And he, spoke strongly on that point. Vibhinnatam namanami. There's no difference between the name and the personality of God. So that was another answer he gave. And there was a very, kind of a sophisticated person, as I remember. I think he must have been, decked out in proper Western attire, suit. And, obviously well-educated. Sir, can you prove by logic that there is God? You do not know what is logic. Again, the man came back, basically restating his question and, moving a word or two. Sir, can you prove that, as if Prabhupada hadn't got the point? Sir, can you prove by logic that there is God? And God, you do not know what is logic. And again, the man came back. But sir, by logic, can you prove? Can you prove that there is God? And again, Prabhupada came. You do not know what is logic. There's a mother, Mother Nature, and there are children, living entities. Therefore, there must be a father. That's logic. Now take it. Again, everyone just totally cheered. The man was finished. That's logic. Now take it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
In the book, Maharaj mentions that Prabhupada directed the devotees to print up large posters and have them, placarded all around the Pandal tent, that life without anything without Krishna consciousness is a failure. And I was thinking that wouldn't fly with ISKCON communications. It's just too much.
Yes. It was said in Srila Prabhupada's time that I think that Srila Prabhupada was a public relations disaster. He was not ready to fit into the neat mold prescribed by the arbiters of public opinion and taste. He was going to say things the way Shastra said them, whether you liked it or not. He was going to say what the Shastra said, whether you liked it or not. He said, he told Giriraj Maharaj, I'm sure it must be in the book somewhere, that my Guru Maharaj never compromised, I never compromised, nor should any of my disciples ever compromise. Very strong. Panchatattva says, I remember, let's see that I'm not missing anyone because things scroll down. I remember hearing a devotee's memory of Srila Prabhupada in which Prabhupada was appreciating the merits. Okay, we got that. Okay, yeah. So we're up to date on the questions.
Tulsi Priya, I think, has a new one.
Okay.
Is that all right? It's just, when you were talking about not being compromising, I was thinking, would you say that if somebody is going to be very uncompromising in their preaching, then their behavior has to also be very strict, because you'll be called a hypocrite if you're not?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Therefore, Prabhupada said we have to be of ideal character.
Yeah.
The other thing, just in balance, is that Prabhupada one time went to the Indian consulate in New York with Kirtiraj Prabhu to, some sort of visa business or what have you. And the Prabhupada was speaking with the consul or vice consul, and very strong. He was not mincing words at all. He was just really putting it out there. And he was saying things that would have made the man, that was, I think, pointed, would have made him personally uncomfortable. Not speaking in generalities about the world. So he was speaking very, very strongly. And the man was, anyway, Prabhupada spoke very strongly. Then when they left the building, Srila Prabhupada said, I can speak like that. He said, because I am an old man. So he has to, essentially accept, according to culture, especially Indian culture, Prabhupada was an old man, he was a sannyasi. So the consul was his junior. So Prabhupada had the right to say whatever he wanted. And the man, by etiquette, would have to not protest, but listen to what was said. So Prabhupada said, I can speak like that. He said, you cannot. If we 20 or 30 somethings had spoken that way to the consul or vice consul, we would have been considered exceedingly impudent and uncultured. So Prabhupada said, I can speak that way, you cannot. So there's both sides to the thing. But still, Srila Prabhupada didn't say that for nothing, that I never compromised, my Guru Maharaj never compromised. You should never compromise. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is kirtan downstairs tonight again, but for public health reasons, I'm not going into the temple room. So I think I just have to apologize. we could have a little kirtan of our own for a couple minutes if you're willing.
Maybe if Panchatattva Prabhu is willing.
Sure.
You have a whole team there.
Yeah, we do.
Jai.
Just, hey, Shar, you want to play Mridanga?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna play too close.
Okay, no, that's fine.
You want me to bring it?
I'll just clap and you can play the Mridanga.
Which one, Sharon?
I always like it when my daughter plays Mridanga.
Okay.
She's a good Mridanga player. Anyway, I'll start. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Vishnuvad Supriprajakacarya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai,
Hi.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai,
Hi.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Praise the Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kunikiti Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai, Navadip Tham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Gaur Premanande.
Hare Bo.
Thank you for that wonderful kirtan, and thank you all for your association and enlivening presence and questions and contributions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Maharaj.
All good.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you, Lakshmana. Hare Krishna. and Panchatattva and company. And Holiness.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Jaya.
Yeah.
And I'll drop you a note, Kendra. Hare Krishna. Hare Bo.
Hare Krishna.